Hello everyone, this is Randy, and this is going to be a walkthrough of the integration between EndoVision and the Allscripts ePrescribe system. So the first thing I'm going to do is launch EndoVision and log in as a level 9 user. Before you can prescribe, there's a little bit of setup that needs to be done. So the way you get to that is you go to File and Location, and there's a new button here called ERX Admin. You click ERX Admin and it launches ePrescribe. There's a license agreement that you need to agree to. Okay, so the first thing you'll see here is a list of locations. So we can enable, disable each location. So I'm going to pick one to enable. I'm going to highlight it and then I'm going to click enable. And there's this location grouping selection box. 3 choices here. Standalone office is just one office where your providers always go to this office and the patients also. A group would be if maybe you have 2 offices where the providers go kind of back and forth between them and the patients as well. So for the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to do standalone. Okay, so these are the location details. This comes from the locations table in EndoVision. The only thing you need to select here is a time zone. Now when I click enable, it's going to send this information up to ePrescribe. Okay, so what happens here is it comes back to the list of locations and the status has now changed to enabled. So this site or location has been enabled. So the next step is to click the users button so we can add a user. We have no users yet, so we're going to add our first user. The 2 main pieces of information you need for creating a user are the logon user. This is the EndoVision logon here. And the other piece of information you need is a provider. So when you create that first user for a location, this needs to be a credentialed provider with a DEA license and a state license and an NPI. So when I click register, it's going to pass this information up to ePrescribe and then launch kind of a registration page. This is a message you wouldn't see in your production environment. It's just for testing. Okay, so this is the screen you'll see. The registration information has been passed up, and the next step is to click register electronically. You have to agree to this here and then type in the code. Okay, and then you're at this registration page. So then this information here needs to be filled out completely, and then you click next in the bottom right. There's some personal information here, so I'm going to pause the recording and jump forward. Okay, so once you complete the registration, you'll see a screen that looks just like this. And the next thing you want to do is check your email. There's a confirmation that is sent out by Allscripts, and we have to go over to that email. Okay, so here is what the email will look like. It's from Allscripts, and there's a link in here that says click here to verify. So you need to, before you do anything else, you need to click that. And that will bring you to this confirmation screen. I'm going to enter this information and then jump forward. Okay, so once you have completed that, you'll see a screen that looks just like this, registration complete. So next we can go back to our ePrescribe screen and click Close in the bottom right. And now in our list of users, we have this one user and the status is pending confirmation. So after you've done that verification with the email, you can come back here, highlight it, and click Confirm. Now this user's been confirmed and is ready to ePrescribe with it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the administration here and come back to Dental Vision. And I'm going to select a patient. Once I have a patient selected, I'll click Notes, Medical RX, and there's a new button down here at the bottom. Instead of Add, which is how we did it before, now we're going to use ERX. What this button does is it passes up the patient information, and then it signs on to ePrescribe as your current logged in user. There's an agreement you need to agree to. And here we are. So we're now in the Allscripts ePrescribe system. And you can go ahead and prescribe here. The patient is selected, the provider is selected, the location is selected. So I'm just going to quickly add some medication here. I'm just sort of following the prompts here. This is where you would select a pharmacy, but I'm just going to cancel that for this demo. And now here in destination, because we're in a test environment, it doesn't have the send to pharmacy option, which you would see here. So send to pharmacy would send this prescription electronically to that pharmacy. So instead of that, I'm just going to print. So you can also use this system to create printed prescriptions. That's a good way to make sure all the prescriptions are in the system and they can have the DUR checks and that kind of thing. Okay, so I've finished creating a prescription for this patient, and I can go ahead and close this box here. When you close out after prescribing, it will download the medications or prescriptions that you've added. So there's a new button down below called Refresh. When you click Refresh, the prescription that we added should show there. Okay, so one more thing I want to demonstrate is the adding of additional users. So I'm going to go back in to File, Locations, ERX Admin. And I'm going to select our location and click Users. And so we have one user now. I'm going to add an additional user here. So I'm going to pick the logon for this additional user, and I'm going to select somebody. Okay, so there's a couple different types of users listed here. That first user had to be a doctor, but additional users can be one of these other types. So you can have staff members that cannot create prescriptions or prescribe at all, but they can come in and they can do some administrative functions. You can also have prescribe on behalf users, someone who does not have any credentials but can prescribe on behalf of another provider. When they create prescriptions, the provider will need to review those prescriptions before they're sent. And then these mid-levels are basically someone who has credentials but is not a fully credentialed provider. So I'm just going to add a prescribe on behalf user. And I'm going to click Save. Now when we do it this time, it's very different. Instead of going through that whole registration process, it just uploads the data and the user's ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and close out. And I'm going to log off of EndoVision. I'm going to sign in as that user I just created. I'm going to select a patient. Notes tab, Medical RX, and ERX button to add prescriptions. It's sending up all the information it needs to prescribe. Since this is the first time I'm logging in as this user, there's an agreement. Okay, so now I'm logged in as this other non-credentialed prescribe on behalf user. So when you log in as that type of user, the interface is a little bit different. You select which provider you want, and then you click New RX. So I'm just going to pick any random medication here. Okay, so the options here are different. So now I can send this to the physician, or I can just report it as patient reported. So I'm going to send to physician here. Okay, so that is complete. I'm going to go ahead and log out and close. Okay, and so then I'm going to log out as that prescribe on behalf user and log back in as my original credentialed provider. Okay, so there's a new button on the provider table, which is called ERX Tasks. And this is where you sign on, where the credentialed provider can review that prescription that was sent by the prescribe on behalf user. Okay, so there's one task here. I can click on the task, and then I guess my options in this case are just deny or resolve the DUR. I'm just going to deny and process it. And that's it. I'm finished with my tasks. So I'm just going to log out and close. Okay. So that's just a brief walkthrough and overview of some of the functionality of the integration between EndoVision and ePrescribe. Thank you. Have a nice day.